The Audi SQ7 gets a refresh for the 2025 model year, and in this video I'm going to cover the exterior, the interior, take it for a drive and see what it's like out on the road, as well as talking about the kind of fuel economy you can expect, and then the pricing and how it compares to the competition. So as far as the styling here, well, this refresh for 2025 freshens up a vehicle that at this point for the Q7 has been around since 2017. The SQ7 was introduced in 2020 here in the States, so not quite as dated, but certainly needed a refresh. A whole new generation would have been nice as well, but hopefully we'll see that here in the next couple of years. But I think that this vehicle is aging very gracefully, as I'll discuss in this video. But up front there, as far as the changes goes, you have these new headlights. They're LED laser light headlights there that are very, very cool. And they now have 4 customizable patterns to that LED lighting signature there for the DRLs. And you can change that to whatever your preferences, and a really cool little touch. You also have a new front bumper, which interestingly gets rid of any kind of SQ7 badging. Typically for the S models you had a little badge denoting it there in the grille. You don't have that anymore. So honestly, from the front end, unless you are a really good car spotter, you'll have no way of really knowing that this is the S version with a twin turbo V8 under the hood unless you look at the badge on the back. But really nice look up front still nonetheless, and very much a sleeper, low profile, especially in this gray color. Does not stand out. It's not shouty, at least whenever it's off. And it's a really nice look though for those who do want to fly under the radar. Coming down to the sides here, SQ7s come standard with 21-inch wheels, but this one has the optional 22-inch wheels instead, which are about $1,500 extra, and look really nice. And you also have on this one Continental Sport Contact 6 summer tires. You have all seasons on those 21s. Otherwise, coming down to the sides, it's mostly the same as any other SQ7, no big changes there. But out back, you do have some more changes. You have some new taillights that also have the customizable signatures, and you also have a new rear bumper that now has the exhaust tips a little bit more pronounced than before. And again, a really nice look out back. Very subtle though, very classy like we expect from Audi. And it's honestly really refreshing these days. Just as a sidebar here, with BMW getting so crazy and bold with a lot of their designs, and even Mercedes getting a little more daring these days, I really am appreciating the more conservative approach of Audi recently, and I think this vehicle has aged very well. These updates really help to make it feel a little fresher, but doesn't stray from the low-key formula that they've had for a long time here for the SQ7. The interior of the Audi SQ7 is very impressive and very, very just classy, luxurious. All the things you want from something with this one's as-tested price of $116,000. It feels appropriately luxurious, even though, again, prices have inflated over the past couple of years, but still a very special feeling interior. Now, if you're familiar with any Audi from the past, 5 years or more, there's no surprises here. It is the same double screen, touchscreen layout that we've had for many, many years in a lot of these Audis, and all the switchgear and everything. It's all very familiar, but a brief rundown of all the basics here. So you have these really nice quilted leather seats that are perforated and are just beautiful here. Of course, you can get some other colors as well, but love it in red combined with this gray exterior. And this one also has the Prestige package, which gives you ventilation in these seats, as well as a massage function with a bunch of different really good advanced programs for the massage. So it's not just a basic lumbar thing. Like, it's very advanced, very well done, and well worth the upcharge to go for that Prestige package, which is I think about $6,000 or so. And that's the only way that you get those laser light headlights, the OLED taillights, the dual pane panoramic moonroof here. You also get a head-up display, heated rear seats, passenger memory, soft close doors with the double pane windows, so extra quiet there, along with remote park and sunshade. So all that is part of this Prestige package. So really, if you want one that's got all the things you'd expect out of a six-figure car, you got to go for the Prestige, essentially. It's nice to give you the option to have less of that stuff, but when we're talking about this kind of a price tag, I don't know why they bother with lower trims, honestly, anyway. But anyway, so yeah, super comfortable seats, though, so well done. The steering wheel is classic Audi wheel we've had for many years here. I love how simple it is, just a few buttons. I still love the cruise control controls being on a stock instead. Basic little paddle shifters here on the back, and yeah, a really great wheel. I love how this wheel feels. You also have the familiar digital gauge cluster we've seen in Audis for almost 10 years now, I think, but it still works really great. So is the beautiful Google Maps view if you want that, with the satellite imagery there, or you can have of course all the other basic stuff. You have a little bit of adjustment on the left hand side there to customize it, and just really good gauges, and I have no complaints with them still, even all these years later. Coming over to the middle of the dashboard here. So, like I said, the familiar double touchscreen setup here. The top one is still mostly the same now. Last year, I believe, is when this got this new Google built-in kind of software, so it now has the Google Play Store, it has Amazon Alexa, it has still actually the traditional navigation, so it doesn't have Google Maps built in like some of the other integrations. We've seen some others, but you do have, again, that app store there. You also now have the ability to purchase themes in this, so there's a few sample ones downloaded here, but it basically just changes the background on the screen, and then the ambient lighting is keyed in automatically to match that. I mean, you could also tweak the ambient lighting yourself. And essentially you're paying, I think, about $13 for a image that you can't even, it'd be cool just to be able to upload your own, or, you know, have some way to unlock that and pay for that ability to put your own stuff on there. But you have their own store there. And, you know, it's, I guess, a cool little thing if it's something you appreciate. But for most people, you're just going to ignore it and not pay $13 for that. But it does have wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto integration still. That all worked really well here this week in my experience. You also have, you know, satellite radio, and going through all the radio stations and all that is very easy. Again, stuff that we've been familiar with from these Audis for many years now, but, you know, really well done. This lower screen here controls your climate and a few of the other basic functions. My only complaint with this is that it takes 2 taps in order to turn on your heated steering wheel, because you have to press a sub menu here on the lower screen, and then that takes you to the upper screen to turn that on. Again, nothing new. That's been a complaint I've had with these ever since this system debuted, but you know, that's the only real gripe, honestly. It still works really well. It still is pretty quick. I like how you have haptic feedback when you press down on it, so you know you're actually pressing something. And just, again, if it's not broke, don't fix it. It's not broken. I honestly am kind of sad they're going away from this, because it really just gives, you know, Audi, especially Audi loyalists, a familiarity and ease of use of it. So you hop in here, you know exactly how everything works. It's very consistent and very simple, and I've always loved this Audi system. Also, you still have a wonderful volume knob and a few other really nice metal buttons here. You have this great shifter, which is always just feels so good in your hands here. And then the main downfall of this interior, the one gripe that I think everybody has with it, is the lack of storage space. It's just not good. You have these 2 cup holders, which are already on the small side. You have a pocket in the door here with a bottle holder. And then you have this little pocket in front of your armrest, and then underneath the armrest, you'll see you have a wireless phone charger, and then a tiny little spot that's just big enough for like sunglasses if they're not in a case. That's honestly it. I couldn't even fit my sunglasses case in there. That's why you see it over in the door. So, I mean, the fact that you can't fit a pair of sunglasses in a case in this is just kind of crazy, that you don't have even that much storage here. But again, this is nothing new for Audis. They've all had this same thing, at least these larger ones. And I also have to say, I do have to give them kudos, because in the SQ7s here, you get the true carbon fiber, this matte carbon fiber trim as standard. Typically, that's an expensive add-on for Audis or any other vehicle for that matter. And the fact that they throw it in this is notable and really nice. You also have the piano black finish there on the dash. And while it does show off some dust there, it's a better place for that than, you know, a high touch point area where you get lots of fingerprints and stuff. Thankfully, you know, all the high touch point areas are still plastic or, you know, metal or the carbon fiber here. So I think it's actually one of the best uses of piano black here, you know, in modern vehicles. And so just a really, still just beautiful, cool interior up front. I also love these little Bang & Olufsen tweeters that come out of the dash here. And this Bang & Olufsen stereo is fantastic. You get a lower Bang & Olufsen system as standard in these, but this one has the $4,900 Bang & Olufsen 3D advanced stereo upgrade, and it is fantastic. I've always loved the top-end Audi systems. They're fantastic in all the vehicles that I've tested them in. And in this, no difference. Sounds so clear, so crisp. Pretty good 3D depth with that effect if you like that. The surround sound thing's great. It all works really, really well. And this is one of the vehicles I've really savored listening to the music whenever I've had it on. It's really been a dilemma. Do I listen to the wonderful V8 or do I listen to this amazing stereo? It's a very tough choice and a very fortunate choice to have to make. But the other minor little complaint I will add before I move on to the back seat is that you have a knee area that is not very comfortable if you rest your knee on this center console. So, you know, it has a little bit of padding further down, but I don't think anyone's seating position is ever going to actually touch that padding. So my knee is touching a sharp edge for this metal trim and the hard carbon fiber. Not comfortable. And when you're doing long cruise control stints, you kind of, at least me, I tend to rest my leg up against that. it's not luxurious. I wish that was all, you know, padded. I mean, it's pretty to look at, but it's just not comfortable, and I'd rather have comfort over the aesthetic, honestly, personally. But moving on to the backseat here in the Q7, it's a pretty nice backseat. You can see we have the bench here, and you see that it's a decent amount of space. So I'm 5'9", I'm sitting behind myself. I have a couple of inches of legroom to spare. I mean, this isn't a massive vehicle. It kind of splits the difference as far as length goes, compared to like the other competitors. You know, they're like, for example, Mercedes GLE and GLS. This kind of fits in the middle. It's not as big as the GLS and the X7. So you're not going to have as much space as the traditional 3-row large German luxury crossovers. So, I mean, it still is totally fine though. And, you know, again, because this is the Prestige one, they have heated seats back there. They also have their own climate controls, air vents, and power outlets back there. There's a fold down center armrest as well. And they have their own, you know, dedicated speakers, of course, and some air vents too, as well as, again, that panoramic roof to look out of. And a really comfortable back seat. Also having the sunshades is a nice touch. But because there's not a ton of length to work with here, you know, even with that second row slid up a little bit, I mean, as you can see in the default position here, I mean, that third row is basically useless. Even I think some kids would struggle to fit back there, to be totally honest. And so, you know, not a super usable third row. Again, if the second row can come up a little bit and give you some extra flexibility, you can use this third row in a pinch. But if it's a vehicle that you're planning on using a third row a lot in, or even occasionally, it's hard to recommend the Q7 just because it's not big enough. And I think, you know, the X7 and the GLS actually have some more usable third rows. And then moving on to the trunk space here, especially with that third row up, I mean, you don't have a whole lot of space there. And the slope of the roof and the tailgate there means that you have less stacking ability than even like the average large luxury 3-row crossovers. You know, like a Lexus TX has more space, for example, things like that. But, you know, it is what it is. And of course, I think most people are not going to use that third row, and then you can drop the third row and have, you know, a nice, roomy, spacious 2-row vehicle. And I think that's how most people use these. And for that, you know, use case, it's going to be totally fine. And you just also have to note that there is no storage underneath the floor there. It's just a bunch of stuff under there instead. You do have remote drop for those seats back there though, and also an option there to lower the rear suspension in order to, you know, load things in a little bit easier, since we do have the air suspension here in the SQ7. But yeah, overall, still a really nice interior, and I'm really going to miss this interior, honestly, whenever it's upgraded to this new one. I'm hoping the new one's great. I haven't tried it yet in these upcoming Audis, but I really am going to miss this whole setup because it's just so familiar, so nice, and just really well done. But let's start up and go for a drive. The SQ7 here has a nice S key, and I always love these keys. They're really nice and small, just the basic buttons you need, and that's it, and just really well done. So of course, it's keyless access key, essentially push button start. So you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, and it roars to life. And you can really hear the burble of the exhaust too, even in comfort mode. And oh man, it's such a wonderful thing to have a twin turbo V8 in something like this. All right, so setting off here in the SQ7. So the first thing you notice about this vehicle, well, what I really like about the SQ7 is the great visibility. You have a really good view forward, a really nice thin A-pillar, great view out of the sides with the mirrors off onto the doors. I mean, it's really well done. Again, none of this stuff's anything new. This Q7, again, has been around since like 2017. But they just nailed it from the very beginning, and it's you know, really good these days. View out of the back is also really good, and typical SUV fashion, you do have those headrests up there for the third row. But otherwise, so as far as just cruising down on this lovely park road with the fall foliage in full effect here, you know, it's a really smooth ride, especially, you know, this one having, again, the double pane windows, and even these tires are specifically formulated to have, you know, a quiet kind of demeanor to them. And it's a really luxurious, serene thing, again, with the air suspension doing its thing in comfort mode, which is what we're in currently here. Nice and smooth ride. Even on these 22-inch wheels, you would think it's going to be a rough ride. Audi does such a good job with massive wheels, you know, just still giving you a really smooth ride. And this even has a thicker sidewall than some of the more aggressive stuff like the RS models I've done in the past with tiny little tires on those. But yeah, it's just, again, so quiet. It's mixed for a great soundstage, especially, again, for this fantastic stereo. But it's a very luxurious experience, even if you're driving in complete silence. It's really serene, and all you hear is the light purring of that V8 engine. I've also really enjoyed the throttle response and the brake response here in these Audis. You know, even these days, again, companies still really struggle to sometimes deliver smooth and consistent responses for throttle and brake. And the fact that, you know, this always does exactly what I'm expecting it to do. Brakes are nice and easy to be smooth with. You know, it's enough bite to give you confidence, but not so much that, you know, you're putting your teeth into the steering wheel every time you hit the brakes. I mean, it's really nicely done. The only little response related complaint that I have is that the auto stop start system is a little over eager to shut down the engine. Like, I'll be rolling into a parking spot and it'll not even be fully stopped and it'll like kick off the engine, like, you know, at 1 or 2 miles per hour, and I'm like, I wanted to keep going and inch up some more. I don't love the application of the stop start in this vehicle, so I mean, thankfully it's an easy thing just to turn off if you don't want it. But, you know, just the one little other gripe. But I'm going to go ahead and put it into the dynamic mode. There's also an individual mode, so you can custom tailor as much or as little aggression as you'd like. But dynamic mode raises the idle here, you know, puts everything into its most, you know, impressive setting, firms up the dampers, the steering, quicker throttle, and all that. And also gives you more rear bias, I believe, for the torque factor and rear diff, since this one has the S Sport package. But anyway, turning onto this back road here, let's see how it accelerates. Here we go. There we go. So I wanted to kind of start in second there. And yeah, it's the same old story you're used to from this wonderful twin turbo V8 in all these Audi products. And this application is, again, the 4-liter twin turbo V8, and it does 500 horsepower and 568 pound-feet of torque. Obviously, this motor is capable of much more. You know, in the RS models, it does well over 600. But in this, honestly, you still have a lot of those same great characteristics. And to me, this didn't feel wildly slower than an RS6 Avant, for example, or an RSQ8. Yes, you know, you have a little less punch there, but you still have the same great sounds. You know, again, most of the same great punch. Honestly, you know, it's a shame we don't get the option for an RSQ7, but I don't really feel like I'm missing out that much because, again, you still get the same engine here. You still have, you know, a lot of the same fun. And this surge of those turbos as it, you know, builds speed, and the wonderful sound of this engine as well. It's just so good. And yeah, and there's also, of course, the manual mode, and that also works really well because this also has the ZF 8-speed automatic. So that means you have nice quick shifts here, and I will demonstrate that now. Here we go. It's just like instant, just bang, bang, bang. Downshifts are really good too. And yeah, it's really well done. And so if you are someone who likes to manually shift, you know, you can have some fun here with this for sure. I'm not sure how many people are going to do that in, you know, Q7, but you have that option, and it's really well done if you do want to use it. But coming up some corners here, I always take, let's see how the SQ7 handles. So we have 285 wide, massive tires, and again, these are also summer tires. You get all seasons as standard in these, but man, wow, yeah, this thing is impressive. I've been driving this vehicle for a week, but believe it or not, I haven't carved up a back road in it yet until today, and it just feels so good flying around in this thing because it's just like four-wheel steer, which you have here in this as standard, does a really good job. And again, that rear diff really helps to rotate you very well, and just everything about the way this thing drives is just so dynamic. You have active roll stabilization using a 48-volt system, so that allows it to you know, really keep everything so flat. And again, the agility because of the four-wheel steer system. It's not wild with the difference that it makes in like parking lots. Unfortunately, I wish it did more of, you know, shortening the turning radius, but you know, out here when you're aggressively driving, that is where this thing, it's so flat. And you know, I mean, I know again it's a small third row, but I have to remind myself I'm in a 3-row SUV because it is really just like a slightly higher RS6 Avant, like is how it feels to me. It's really well done, and yeah, this thing is a blast. It's you know, again, if you want that extra practicality, I mean, there are some other sporty options, you know, with Mercedes having the GLS 63, which goes even a little bit of a step further, but it's a lot more expensive than this. You also have, you know, the X7 M60i, which also, you know, is more similar in pricing to this, but, you know, is another one that does give you that more dynamic vibe, but those are also larger, keep in mind. So they're not going to be, in my opinion at least, as dynamic as this is. And, you know, this also is, I think, going to be a little bit lighter than some of those small things too, that's, you know, smaller size. So these weigh just under 5,500 pounds. And so, I mean, yeah, it's, yeah, that sounds like a big number, but it's really not bad. But yes, if you do want the active rear diff and the active roll stabilization, those are features in this S Sport package, which is about $6,000 extra. So not cheap, I would argue that probably the four-wheel steer is going to be the biggest difference maker, along with the, you know, adaptive air suspension, which again, you get those things as standard. If you really love powering out of a corner and like marveling at, you know, how a rear diff can work, because Audi does some very impressive ones, some of my favorite ones, honestly, you know, that's great. You also get red calipers, but I don't know if red calipers, the rear diff, and that roll stabilization are worth $6,000. Maybe if you do a lot of corner carving, you know, or I mean, again, at this price point, I guess no one really cares a whole lot about spending extra money on options. But if you are a little more price sensitive, you could probably skip that and still have, you know, a lot of fun in one of these. But hey, if you're going to spend six figures on a super SUV, might as well go for everything, right? I'm going to do an acceleration from a dig here in first gear to really show how this thing rips your head off. Here we go. All right, so still held back boost a little bit, but then, oh man, yeah, this thing. This is pretty close to a dream daily, you know, especially if you need a lot of space. Doesn't get much better than one of these. I mean, obviously RSQ8 does get better than this, and I really enjoyed a week with one of those not too long ago as well. But this is just so well done. I'm so glad they've kept the V8 around here for 2025 too with these, and hopefully they continue to update it, because it is still just such a gem of a motor. And I can't get enough. I really cannot get enough. I love driving these things. All of these S and RS Audis, some of my favorite all-rounders in this, you know, in just the car world in general. You know, they just do all the daily comfort stuff so well, all the dynamic stuff so well, and blend everything together so well that I just have trouble coming up with complaints with all of these sportier Audi products. They're all just so well done. And now on the highway here, I have the adaptive cruise control system on. We actually are going around some gentle corners here, and I do have the lane guidance turned on, so it is giving me that assistance. And they've done a really nice job of upgrading this system, because a few years ago it seemed like it was a little bit more relaxed, and now it seems like it really does do some more assertive assistance. And you know, it actually does a really good job of making sure that I'm staying in the lines and nudging me if I get too close. It doesn't ping pong or anything really either, so it's really doing a great job. And it's all standard, by the way. Audi finally made all the safety tech standard here. So, you know, adaptive cruise control with this lane keep assist, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, even the 360 camera, which some companies still will charge you extra for, that's all standard here, at least on the SQ7s. And so, you know, but I mean, you know, going around this corner here now, I mean, the road lines are not clearly marked, to be totally honest, with the way the sun's reflecting off of them. And it's still doing a really good job keeping track of them, giving me confident assistance. And so, yeah, I think that especially these newest Audi systems are very well done for the driver assist. If you are someone who wants to use that, obviously if you're in an SQ7, maybe you like doing all the driving yourself. But it's great you have those assistance systems there if you want them, and it's great they don't charge you extra for them anymore. So all the safety for everybody, and that's great. And so, yeah, I mean, out here on the highway, otherwise, really nice, quiet highway cruiser, even with, you know, vehicles passing by. We've got a noisy truck here passing us now, and hear it a little bit, but I mean, if you had the radio on or a conversation going, honestly, you wouldn't even notice any of this stuff, honestly. And so, yeah, it is a really great highway cruiser. Nice big gas tank as well, so you know, you should have a decent amount of range here. I've been driving this vehicle 110 miles so far, and it still says I got 265 miles of range, and that's with me getting on it and enjoying it. If you're just doing straight up highway cruising, you'd probably, you know, do even better. Speaking of fuel economy though, these are rated at 15 mpg in the city, 21 on the highway, and 17 combined. So not great ratings right off the bat there. I mean, again, you got a twin turbo V8 and a big heavy luxury crossover. That's par for the course. Now in my driving here, which, you know, I'd say was a mostly around town kind of driving, a little bit of highway mixed in, but not a whole lot. I did do some idling also to film this interior, which dragged it down a little bit, but I'm currently averaging 15.2 mpg. And before I did this review, I was averaging like 15.3, so basically the same mpg here. So again, I'm sure you could get closer to 20 if you're just cruising on the highway, taking it easy. But if you're getting on it, enjoying it, or even just doing errand running, which is what most of this week was just casual driving, you know, it's a thirsty one, this one. And, you know, again, that is something I'm sure you're not going to be worried about if you're wanting a twin turbo V8 in something like this, but just make sure you have a healthy budget for fuel in this thing for sure. But then the last thing to mention here, though, is the pricing and how it compares to the competition. So as far as pricing goes, you're also going to want to have a healthy budget. So these start at $92,000 for the SQ7, and then this one as tested is $116,640. And again, that's inflated due to the Prestige package, adding in all that extra stuff, that S Sport package for $6,000, the wheels, the black optic package. You also have the leather dash and tops of the doors, and the Dynamica headliner there. That's like $3,700 alone as well. So as you can see, you know, there's some pricey options here that if you were to, you know, take a little easier on options, you can get one of these a little bit lower. And if you're shopping for an SQ7 or any vehicle for that matter, you're going to want to head to mattmotoring.com/new-car-quotes. So on that page, you'll be able to see dealer invoice pricing and be connected to local dealers in your area to check out one of these vehicles in person and see what's available around you. There's a link in the description as well as a pinned comment here in this video to head right over there and get that invoice pricing. And then as far as how this compares to the competition, so this is also kind of interesting because it kind of splits the difference in a way, you know, because this is a little smaller than the X7 and the GLS, it comes in at a lower price tag than those vehicles do. The GLS especially. The GLS 63, which, you know, is a little further than this from a horsepower standpoint and stuff, but those are $150,000, like to start. And then, you know, you look at the X7, the M60i version of that is pretty comparable to this. Actually does do, again, a little bit more power. It also has the, you know, the brand new tech that BMW's been really doing a good job of keeping things up to date and putting bigger and bigger screens in and all that stuff. If that's more your thing and you want something higher tech than this, you know, those aren't that much more. A comparable X7 M60i that has all the stuff this has will run you about $125,000. So, you know, that's you got a $9,000 premium there for the BMW. And again, you do get a little bit of a larger vehicle, a more usable third row, a little bit more power, newer tech. So I would say that the $9,000 is worth it. If those things are important to you, by all means, spend the extra $9,000, go for the X7. It's a more usable vehicle, you know, as far as typical SUV duties are concerned. But, you know, it's really, I think, a unique space here with the Q7 because, again, because it's a little bigger than the, you know, GLE and, you know, the X5, it's, you know, going to be a little more practical than those vehicles, which do also have their own performance variants, which come in, you know, at similar pricing to this, you know, so honestly, I think this is pretty well positioned. I really like this package. I love, again, the way Audi does the interior. I think it's actually kind of, I'm appreciating the lower tech. I mean, we still got double, you know, 11-inch screens or 10-inch screens or whatever here. Still, it's not like we're in something from the Stone Age, but it's just a little less of the screen overload like we have in modern vehicles from the competitors. And so for that reason, I think this actually would be my pick over those two. Again, it comes down to your needs and wants, but personally, if it were my money and I wanted something, you know, this large, I didn't need to use the third row really, absolutely, I think this would be my pick, and it's just so well done. So anyway, that's all of my thoughts here on the Audi SQ7. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Huge thanks to Audi for providing me here with this vehicle to review for you guys today. Please leave a like and subscribe to keep these videos coming, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.